Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Stanisci of NLL Lacrosse Talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 249 and 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now on NLL Lacrosse Talk, our co-host Gary Groob and our very special guest, Jasper Horst. He's the team manager for both the women's and men's lacrosse teams. So you could say that he's really staying up late to talk to us. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here.
Jasper, a quick question. What started you getting involved in lacrosse?
A hatred of soccer.
I love that.
Yeah, it's
Danish soccer is pretty good from what I've seen.
Dutch
it's
soccer.
Not bad.
Yeah, but it's very common. And when I moved to the U.S., I had when I was a teenager, my father was in the Dutch Navy, and he had a tour of duty in the U.S. And as a teenager, I got to go along with him. And I went to school in the U.S. for 3 years. And of course, in this fall, winter, spring sports, you have to pick a sport. And I thought, I'm here. It's my only chance. So I did football in fall. I did track and field in the winter. And then spring came around. It's like the soccer coach was talking to me. He said, "Hey, you want to, play soccer for us?" Because he already had a Spanish guy. He thought with the Dutch guy on the team, we're going to be unbeatable. We're going to win state. And I'm like, man, I can play soccer anywhere I want when I go back home. Let's try something different, something new. And looked at baseball. Didn't really like it that much. And lacrosse popped up, and I thought, let's try that. And 2 weeks later, I was in love and completely fell for the sport. And it's been probably 30 years since, and we're still going strong.
Isn't it amazing how there are so many in lacrosse with a lot of experience of the game, how they decide, and as you've decided, to give back to help others who want to play lacrosse and make the game better. I look around, I see so many like that it comes from a personal experience as opposed to a professional one.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely. I can't make money with lacrosse where I am. There's no
I said
jobs.
that in a nice way, didn't I? It wasn't really nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really love of the game, and just being involved with something that's, I think, is unique. The history of the game, the way it's grown over time, the First Nation roots, all those things made it very interesting already. And when I started, this is all new to me. It was just like swinging a ball around and hitting people. I was play defense, so hitting people was more my speed. But if you when I found out that my coach was actually a pretty good player back in his day, he was a very good coach, and we did really well as a high school team. We used to play colleges and win. That was fairly unusual too. And so they then instilled a hunger for more very early on. And when I stopped being able to play myself, I became involved in officiating, team management, coaching officials, and now also team management for national teams and also local teams. So it's more of a, if I can't do any stuff on the field anymore, if I can't play anymore, I want to do something else. And why that drive is there, I'm not quite sure. My wife will probably tell you it's just to get out of the house. But yeah, no, it's something that the whole family has picked up on, and it's hard to explain. I just love the game, and I want other people to enjoy it as well.
Actually, it's not hard to understand. Well,
you guys are in the same boat, I think. But
yeah, well, what in particular? This will be my last question until I turn you loose on Gary, or turn Gary loose on you. The game, you've expressed your desire to play the game because it was different. You liked the physical play. Talk to us a little bit about why you thought a women's team was ready to be, and define the fact that it can happen, because you do need a few people committed to something like that to make it work. When did you decide that moment arrived, and why?
There was a cry for help, basically, from Artu Sesselaar. He's been on the show late last year.
Mm-hmm.
He is the head coach for the women's team in Utica. He basically called me and he said, I need help with getting somebody that's not a player to organize things. Everything was pretty much self-organized by the players up to then. They went to Langley for the Box World Championships there. The guys went, and 5 or 6 people burned out because they had to do all the organization and play and coach and help coach and all these other things. The financial management, it was all messy. And people just said, I don't want to do this. So he said, I foresee the death of the sport in the Netherlands if we don't get some, well, I wouldn't call it professional help, but somebody that understands how to do this. So he asked me, and we thought about it, and then I talked about it to a bunch of people, and I talked to the players, and they said, we'd love somebody. We don't care who you are, just help us. I'm like, okay, well, that's a low bar. I think I can manage. And I've done it before. I was a team manager for the field team back in 2006 when we had the World Championships in London, Ontario. I was a player and a financial manager and a team manager and a driver. So I understood the feeling that you're doing too much as a player. You're not going to have as much fun playing if you have to do all those other things, wear all those other hats. So I understood the question very much. And then talking to the players and hearing their need for support, I said, like, well, let's do it. And so that's how it happened, basically.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it's like I said, there's a long history of the players playing, becoming coaches, becoming presidents of leagues, moving on. So I really appreciate what you do for the game, and it's fun to hear about all the different countries that are involved and to speak to one directly about that. Gary, he's all yours.
All right. You brought up us having R2 on before, and one of the things that he brought up was at the beginning of the program, when you guys were just forming it, is that you guys were smart enough to go to the guys playing field hockey and going, hey, if you want to, some more contact and to play with a little less rule, let's go with built from there. So you had a lot of athletic guys who had to learn the rules of this, but the athleticism was there to start.
Yeah, the athletes were there. Some of them could not deal with physical contact because hockey back then was, or field hockey, I should say. Sorry, got to be specific. Although I piss off a lot of my Canadian friends by calling theirs ice hockey, and they're like, "It's hockey." I'm like, no, it's ice hockey. But that's an ongoing inside joke. A lot of people that we talked to then felt the physicality was not for them. But other people's like, hey, I have a stick, and suddenly there's action in 3 dimensions, and I don't have to run bent over the whole time, which is killing my back, and hey, I can even hit people with it. So that was an easy sell for some people. It did get us into trouble with the Dutch National Hockey Foundation because we took away some of their future stars, that people that dropped out of the junior national team program, that they started playing lacrosse. But we got into hot water a few times with those people. So that was just the first time.
Right.
It happened a few more times.
First of many.
First of many. Yeah. Maybe I should not talk about those occasions too much.
Well, you guys started out road, I think 2004 in the Czech Republic with your first European lacrosse championships, and by the time 2008 rolled around, you actually had quite a bit of success, winning the silver at the European federal things. So you had a lot of really great success early. Was this I'd like to say, was it great for the program? But, after that, we had a drop off. So, was it too much too soon, do you think?
Maybe a little bit. We had a generation of very enthusiastic people that joined, and we had a fairly strong under-19 team that also almost as a block went on to the senior league or the senior men's team. And that was the core of the success early on. A lot of those people have aged out of the programs. It's a normal phase. They get married, have kids, focus on their professional careers, and it's just we've struggled to get replacements of enough quantity and quality. We've also hurt ourselves a little bit by maximizing the number of U.S. nationals with Dutch passport that we allowed to play. That was done on purpose because we said we want the people in the national team to elevate the national play rather than bringing it for the national team and then taking the knowledge and the skills back home again. We want people to learn in the Netherlands to play at that level. And I think that might have something to do with it, but it was just very difficult with actively recruiting enough people all the time. Especially lately, Corona did a number on our membership numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a worldwide phenomenon. I'm sure you had that in the U.S. and Canada as well. People just decided to do something else with their time. We're it's getting better. We're on the upswing. We're getting new quality players in. We're getting bigger numbers, but we're still a long way from where we were back in the glory days. I wouldn't want to call it, but yeah, that silver medal is still a very bright moment in our history. And there's a YouTube video around when the team here's the final whistle of that game against England, and they all go absolutely mad, absolutely mental, just being there and winning that medal. First time ever, and it's only the second time we've been on a European Championship. So that was quite a big challenge. I wasn't part of that team, unfortunately, but they can still talk about it with a relish.
Absolutely. And, you'd mentioned, having a non-player being at the top, which is very important because there's so many moving pieces to keeping all these programs going. And I know there was a lot of problems between field and box over in the Netherlands and funding and things like that. To have one central guy and have him worry about it and you worry about playing is huge. And I think it really makes – I've watched the program in the last number of years especially grow leaps and bounds because of that. Is not players doing it where they're distracted, where you can actually just focus.
Yeah, if you're having to keep too many balls in the air, it's just killing for your play style. You can't focus. I mean, like I said, I was there myself. I'm playing defense, and I stand there, and there's a fast break coming my way, and I'm digging down to my stands, and I'm getting ready. And it's like, where are we going to go to dinner tonight? That's not the right focus for that moment, because there were like 35 of us, so we had to plan where we were going every night, and that sort of distracting thought just didn't help. So I got scored on, and the coach wasn't happy with me, but I'm like, Coach, you also want to get fed tonight, right? But no, that was not a good discussion to have at that point in time.
Not during the game, no.
No.
Now, talk about the culture in the Netherlands as it's grown, as this has come since 2004 to where we are now, and how it's developed and the interest in the Netherlands.
Okay, like I said, well, it's had its ups and downs. We've had more people, we've had more members, but right now we have more flavors of lacrosse than we've ever had before. We have a sixes team, we have a box team. There's only 20 men's, only 20 women. So we're trying to do a lot more with a smaller amount of people. So that's a stretch for any organization, and it's all volunteers. We don't have any professionals, and it's all people that do it as their hobby. Nobody getting paid for this. So I'm actually surprised we're doing as well as we are with all the challenges, especially last year, where we had 5 major tournaments, and we basically had to as a league, we had to sit down and say, hey, are we actually going to go to all of these tournaments?
Mm-hmm.
We had the box men and women in Utica in September. There was the under 19 women in Korea, was it? I'm not sure. There was a Europeans under 20 for men, and there was there was also European women's seniors. So that's 5 international tournaments, and that's hard to do if you only have 1,000 players. Because then we had 100, so 10% of all our athletes were involved in a national team program in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
So we said, well, we have to have rigorous guidelines in place. We have to say if we can't commit to a tournament, let's make that decision early. If we don't have enough players, let's not try and stretch it out and try to go anyway. We might hurt ourselves, and so we actually pulled out of the under 20 worlds because we just couldn't get a team without too much effort. We took serious steps to professionalize the box organization for Utica. We had a very serious budgeting issue, or well, not really an issue, but we had good talks about budget with the league. We also have rule changes because of the Olympic status that lacrosse now has. Then suddenly our local national organizing committee for the Olympics is getting involved, and they're like, oh, you have to change your bookkeeping, and you have to incorporate your national team administration into your league's finance. So all kinds of new things. So the board people that are really stretched right now. There's lots of challenges, but everybody is still in positive. They're looking at Olympics. They're looking at the Sixes program that's basically being built from scratch without any serious financial support from anybody. It's all self-funded. So I'm very proud of what we're accomplishing still, and what we have accomplished. Looking back at our 20-odd year history from those early days, we have gone from 1 men's team to 6 national teams, all competing at a fairly high level. We're not the total top in everything, and we're probably never going to be without some serious investment. Netherlands is a very sports-minded country. We usually get our a good bag of gold medals at the various Olympics that we go to.
Mm-hmm.
The last one was a record setter with over 20 gold medals. Just not in lacrosse, and I don't think that's ever going to happen.
A lot of speed skating, a lot of swimming. Yeah,
swimming,
I don't
rowing,
think that's the same.
rowing. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a lot of those water sports. Yes,
and if we look at the top 3-4 with Canada, US, Haudenosaunee, a couple other countries up there, it's going to be very difficult to ever get to the medals, but we still want to go, even though it seems like a mission impossible. People are still dedicated and say, hey, we're going for this. We're setting up this program. It's self-funded, and we're putting a heavy load on our athletes, but still we want to go. So the mentality is certainly positive.
Right. Now I want to talk about the World Championship that just passed, and more specifically, I want to talk about the women's program, because in my eyes, all of those women's teams stole the show. They would have been, a lot of people were like me, we're going to cover the men, and you get to the women's program and start watching the games, and you can't take your eyes off it, because there was so much aspect, so much athleticism, and it was such a secret that this should have happened years ago. I had the women from US and Canada on the show back a few weeks, I guess a month or so ago, and it was great to talk about the trials and the tribulations, as well as the elation of finally having this happen and to move forward. And I've got your captain coming on with a couple of the European women next week, I believe.
Okay. So. Which captain? There's 4.
Hedwig.
Okay. Yep. She's great. Yep. We're the old folks of the team. We've seen each other at so many different places around the planet. She'll be at one of my tournaments, or I'll run into her somewhere on the planet on a lacrosse field. So
Jasper. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Finish.
That's basically our greeting when we, or our how we take leave of each other. Like, see you somewhere on the planet, on a lacrosse field somewhere. We don't know where, but it's going to happen. There's going to be a lacrosse field nearby, or an arena or something.
We won't be referring to her as old. We won't tell her that's what she said. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Oh, that's we tell each other that all the time.
I believe you do. I believe you do.
Now, one thing that really stood out to me with that team, with your team in particular, was the heart. Was the heart of that team, because there was a number of things. It's one thing, when you're going up against Canada, you're going up against the U.S., and of course the scores are going to be lopsided just from the sheer, not even so much the skill level, but the amount of years of being in it compared to the relatively new players that are coming into the game. But they took those as lessons. They asked questions, the camaraderie on the female side, especially from the Canadians, the U.S., Haudenosaunee, towards some of the teams that were lower in the standings, and showing things. And just the group camaraderie was something to behold. And then the game that stood out to me, of course, was the Hong Kong game, in which the Netherlands were down by a chunk at the half and came back to win in the end of that game. And just watching the heart, the never quit that's instilled in this team.
Yep. No, that's very well put, Gary. I that was really what was for me the big takeaway. And a lot of these girls have not played lacrosse for more than 2 years. Some of them 6 months. And yes, they make mistakes. And yes, the ball handling isn't as good as it could be, or they make tactical mistakes and like, oh, you should have rolled left instead of right. All those discussions happen, but they were always happy to go onto the field, work hard for each other, give each other the ball, and they never quit. And that was just amazing to see. And that was certainly recognized by all the fans and also the World Lacrosse Board, who was looking on. And they literally said the same thing. We should have done this years ago because it adds such an extra dimension. So for me, that was the best part. And the whole enthusiasm was noticeable. And we've gotten I had probably 3 or 4 random girls with their parents walk up to me and say, hey, we have Dutch legacy, heritage, I don't know what you call it, but how do I play for this team? We want to be part of this. Some of them have the right heritage and they could play for us, and others don't because they're too far away in parentage or they don't have the proper documents. But just on the spot, I want to be part of this, and actually go as far as talking to the team manager and say, hey, how do I get on to this program? So right now we're focusing on Prague, the tournament, the She-Box tournament coming up in May. And we still have some spots. So if you have Dutch heritage and you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I want to be part of a successful women's box team, feel free to contact me. It's most of the girls that were there just said, oh, I'm going to keep doing this all the way to Prague 26 when we have the European Box Championships there in the summer of 2026. And no questions asked. Just make it happen, Jasper. And you're going to be our team manager again, aren't you? And like, yeah, sure, I'll do it through 26. So that's 2 She Boxes and a European Championship that I signed up for basically because they asked me to. Right. And I didn't even have to think twice about it. It's that kind of energy.
Yes. Now, also, let's put this feather in the cap, is that they were the first team to score on the Big Bad Canadians, who twice. For the entire twice, but for the entire tournament, you could watch them go, hey, we're 134-0, 162-0. First goal came from Hedwig. And that night it was funny because the score was lopsided, but the biggest party in town was at that game. Literally at that game, there it was funny listening to the announcers and talking about the fans, and of course us travel well. But just listening to the excitement in there was terrific. It was like the championship for them that game.
It was, and the goal they set was score just once. That's the only, and then doing it twice, and then then of course we also have the interesting fact that if Hollywood would write this script, it would be unbelievable because it's the youngest player on the team scored 1 goal, and the most seasoned player on the team, Hedwig, scored the other one.
Yep.
So if you write this now, nobody would believe it, and it was just such a huge part of the success of that tournament is actually being able to score on the one of the best teams on the planet and some of the best players. And for the girls especially, it was just great standing next to some of their heroes. And I think a lot of instant friendships happened, and people are talking. They've made all these connections, and their own teams getting asked to go to teams to other countries with these Canadian and these American women that they've admired from afar. But now suddenly your heroes are here, and you're playing against them. You're on the field with them. And that was just amazing to see all the enthusiasm. So even though they lost with big numbers, it felt like a win to everybody.
Yeah, and you can also thank one of my good friends, Michelle Boyer, who is the head of Women's Box Lacrosse Global Network, and they've done so much work behind the scenes to make sure that this gets in the forefront of World Lacrosse. And the fruits of the labor are right there. And wow, what a show that was!
I totally agree. Michelle has been helping me as well with setting up future tournaments, and we have some of our players becoming ambassadors for the global network. We try to do as much as we can to grow women's box lacrosse as much as we can in any way that we can, personal or as a team.
Absolutely. It was fun seeing her also in Prague. Last year, I came in just at the end of SheBox before the Rubeski tournament. This time it's the other way around. And hopefully she's coming in a little earlier to catch up with us. But it was great. And she was explaining a lot of the things that were going on during SheBox. And because of the network, that teams that didn't have equipment, they were able to get equipment to, and all the other things there. And to work towards, I know she was working in Utica, of working towards getting equipment designed for women to fit. And I've got one of my sponsors from another show trying to work with her now on jerseys and towards women, and have them streamlined and cut that way that it would work more for the women's game than it is now.
Okay. I hadn't realized that was an issue. Our suppliers had that figured out a long time ago. So there's actually a different cut for the men versus the women's.
Right, that doesn't happen in North America.
No, okay.
You guys are quite a bit ahead that way.
No, it's a North American supplier. So
right, interesting. Now, talking about jerseys, between behind me and on me, and all the ones around you, we've covered pretty much all the years of the Netherlands teams. I've got the Rubeski tournament stuff, as well as the World one that you were gracious enough to give me, and as well as all the ones over there. I want to talk specifically about the black one over your left shoulder, and some of the design in there that is hard for us to see, but is there with the native edge to it.
yes,
And I want to also talk about the treaty and everything like that brings the Dutch and the indigenous together, and why it's so important to have lacrosse roaming into the Netherlands.
Yeah. We started a trend by having famous paintings on the jerseys in Langley, where we had the Night Watch by Rembrandt as part of the background of the shirt, as it were. And when we talked about it, one of our players, who's also a very good graphics artist, Leroy, he has a very long Dutch last name, so I won't bother you with that. But
are the 3 first letters are VAN?
Yes, but there's
lots
of letters.
Letters afterwards.
Another 20 letters behind that.
My goodness.
Leroy Spiekerman van de Wezelenburg. Yeah.
Oh boy,
it's a long name.
It's a household name, I tell you.
Yeah, no, it will be soon. No, his graphic design skills are amazing. So he took The Starry Night by Van Gogh, which is also a very famous Dutch painter and a very famous painting, and he managed to merge that into some art of First Nations warriors around a campfire, around the lake. And it's really hard to see on camera, but we did make a poster out of it, which sold really well. And I'd have to dig it up, the artwork somewhere. But it's a really cool transfer from the Starry Night, and when you get to the ground, it's a very good representation of the Warriors playing lacrosse the way they did way back when, with the old style sticks and the traditional gear and outfits. So and that really turned a lot of heads. In Utica, like I said, the posters sold really well. We kept upping the price, and it kept selling. So we did really well on the gear sales. I'm really happy to report that we.
Well, you also over there were you were culture minded. It wasn't just trying to sell a pin or a jersey, but you were selling the culture as well. Because one of my favorite things, of course, and you gave me them, were the waffle, the cone things,
the stroopwafels,
stuff that I grew up with, of course, with the Dutch parents, and this was bring me back to my childhood, let alone all the other things that were there with posters and different things there. So yeah, you paid a lot of attention to the cultural aspect as well of not just the game.
Yeah, no, we actually had to get emergency supplies flown in through the various family members that arrived after the tournament started, because we did bring a batch of stroopwafels initially. They sold out so quickly. We had one guy come up and buy 10 bags in one go because he loved them so much. So we had to make some calls back to the fans, like, hey, if you're still coming to the US, make sure to put some stroopwafels. So people are coming up with bags, and we'd probably sell them the same day.
Right.
The posters went really well. The jerseys, we had a couple of special orders. We had the lion shirts, the orange shirts with the black lion on the front, which also sold really well. And of course, it was Orange Shirt Day the day after the tournament, so people really said, oh, let's buy that shirt and wear it, because that will be original rather than having all these other things. So a lot of we probably had a lot of sales due to that. And yes, we honored the relationship, the treaty from way back when, 1638 off the top of my head, but I could be off by a couple of years.
It's been about 412 years ago, I think now. Yeah,
don't ask me to do math at this time of night, please. It's been a long day. The treaty that was there, the two Wampum Treaty that the Dutch signed with the First Nations representatives to support each other, and the 2-row indicating that relationship, and we're still honoring that. Of course, R2 has been a huge part of that. He's been single-handedly responsible for probably 3/4 of all the effort that was put into there, because he kept his eye on that relationship. He said, we need to have the 2 rows in the outfits. We have to talk to the various tribes, the First Nations, about their traditions and how they prepare for a lacrosse game or how they deal with it. We went through a couple of training camps with the Onondaga and with the up at the Akwesasne. That was a bit of a long drive to do when you're still jet lagged, but okay. People did sweat lodges, so we really got indoctrinated into that culture and how the inventors of the game really deal with it in their culture, and that was just amazing to see. And for a lot of people, it was an eye opener, and they probably didn't realize there was that much of a history behind it.
Right. Well, you have a good ambassador too as your head coach with Neil Paulus. And I've known Neil quite a while, and he's been on the show as well, also talking about it, and of course his being part of the movie Crooked Arrow, and so the first full length feature on lacrosse.
Yep.
And some, of course, in a Hollywood way, talking about the trials and tribulations behind the scenes of all this stuff. But he's a great ambassador to be the liaison between the Netherlands and the Haudenosaunee, as well as North America, and bring it all together and tie it neatly in a bow.
He even got us in front of the king, the Dutch king. Did you hear about that?
I did. I saw a picture with R2 and him.
Yeah. No, it's the king was on a official visit to New York State, and I think it was in Albany, and they were meeting a First Nations representative group, and they managed to get themselves into that group of there are tons of people visiting. So there are tons of people in that lineup meeting the king. And they got to be one of the first there, and they overspent their time by far, and they even managed to get the king a lacrosse stick, which wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
They weren't supposed to give any gifts to the royal couple, because otherwise they're going to have to, there's going to be an extra plane full of gifts having to go back to home. And they still managed to get the lacrosse stick to the king. So that's for me, that the picture that they send with the royal standing there and they're around it is one of the success stories of last year. And it completely blew away our whole board and the whole league. Like, oh my God, I can't believe we managed to do this.
Right.
And it really put some serious attention on lacrosse. We got some good leads out of it to continue working on growing the sport, especially the funding. Because that's a huge challenge. We just don't have the money to do what we want to do.
What was one of the most successful things that helped you raise money? That if there's a group like yours watching right now, what would you recommend to them as a starting point?
Don't underestimate the power of grassroots initiatives. If you have a good product that we made. The return on the investment for the merch that we brought and sold was 4-1. So we really got some serious money out of that, which really helps us. Don't be afraid to go the official routes, because there's lots of money with governments, with councils, with sports organizations. There's so much more money than you have to invest money to make money. So sometimes it pays to get an expert, like, how do I get money from the government? Pay them, and you get more than your money's worth out of that if you get the right people on board. And don't forget your alumni is probably, for starting sports, it's very easy to lose track of people that have stopped playing. Give them the opportunity to give back. Sometimes people really want to give back, they just don't know how. They're like, well, give him the opportunity. Like, ask him to coach, ask him to officiate, ask him to host a game, ask him to throw a tailgate party, ask them for ideas for fundraising. Let them work for you. And they come from all walks of life, and sometimes they have great ideas, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but at least they stay involved. So not everybody is good at customer relationships management. That's something that's a skill that you usually have to develop as an organization. But just keeping track of, okay, people have left, they stopped playing lacrosse. Give them a call, send them an email. Just a little bit of follow-up can pay off big time down the road.
Yeah, we know that's quite. There are a lot of willing people who want to continue their relationship with lacrosse. That's something that Gary and I in this show understands deeply.
If you don't give them the opportunity, it's not going to happen.
If you don't ask, you don't know.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's true the world over then, I guess.
Well, thanks for that advice. I know there's a lot of people out there. Lacrosse is a grassroots, project for everybody, because just because there aren't as many playing lacrosse as there are soccer or hockey in North America, I won't speak to Denmark, doesn't mean the challenges are easier because they're smaller. It means they're harder. And so they have to work a little harder to have as much success as a local hockey organization has.
Field or ice hockey? No, never mind.
Nicely done.
Yeah, you went back there again. I can't believe you went back there again.
I like
It's
that.
probably going to happen another time.
Now, I want to touch upon you being part of the heads of officiating. How did you get involved in that? Like, you didn't have enough hats to wear already.
Oh, geez. I played I was a captain of the Dutch field lacrosse team in 2006 for London, Ontario. Mm-hmm. I was over 30 at the time and playing 9 games in 10 days. My body basically said, this is not a thing that you want to continue doing. So I retired as a player, but I still wanted to do something. And I think I still was a Dutch board member at the time. But we were really trying to grow the game, and the quality of the officials that we had was very low. Nobody knew the rules. Nobody really understood what the rules were, or how you officiate as a crew, or how you manage a game. That's all, high level wizardry for most of the officials that we had at the time. Mm-hmm. And I had become friends with Graham Lester. He is an English official, and he is a legend in European, well, English officiating for sure, but also in European. He passed away, unfortunately, a number of years back, but he was very influential in my decision because he showed by himself, by just showing up and applying the rules correctly, consistently, and doing game management, he could up the level of the game so much. It was suddenly so much more worth watching. The quality went up immensely. So I reached out to him and said, hey, I noticed how you elevated the play of the game so much by being a good official. How can I be like you? How can I learn to do that? And so he laughed and he said, well, you have to come over and we'll show you. So I went over to England, after a number of games there, and to my great shock, I was invited to ref at the European Championships only 2 years later. So I must have been doing something right. Or they were really short of officials. I'm not sure. So then I suddenly had to do it in front of everybody, and we get assessed. And this is the old style assessment that basically, if they didn't crush at least one dream during the assessment afterwards, then they were not doing it right. So it was really a sort of tough love approach. Like you did this wrong and this wrong and this wrong, and you started off with so many points, and everything you did wrong, you get less points until you end up somewhere in the basement number-wise. So that was really tough. But I found it satisfying, and if I can't be a player, being an official is the next best thing. Yes. You're right there. I mean, you can see things from the player's point of view. You can see you can hear the people talk. You can see the goalie go when he's trying to stop that shot and it doesn't work out. You can see the mesh bloom when the ball hits the net, if the goal gets scored. You can see that happen in real time in front of you. And when that happens, you're on. Then suddenly the spotlight's on you. You have to go do something now. Some people never make that transition. They're like spectator mode. But if you can make that transition, being an official is great, great, great. It's very satisfying to come off the field and knowing that you did a good job, because basically nobody cares that you were there. You know, if nobody noticed that you were there, you did a good job.
You did a great job, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Of course, you have to keep striving to improve. Now, you have to talk to each other. You have to share with your colleagues. Yeah, there's 5 of you in an international game, so you have to work together as a mini team to make sure that you do the best job you can do.
Right.
And I found it very satisfying, and I got invited to a couple of world championships. And then when the injuries got better of my knees, I also started coaching officials later on, and I still do that.
Right.
And then I got invited to do a couple of official-in-chief jobs. San Diego was the latest one, where I was deputy official-in-chief for the World Championship there. And that's even more fun, making sure that you have this crew of I think we had 60 officials in San Diego.
Mhm.
We had over 100 in Netanya, over 100 people just to officiate the games. That's a big crew to manage.
Yes.
Fortunately, I wasn't in charge of managing the herd, or the dazzle, as they called themselves back then. But in San Diego, making sure that everybody gets fed, everybody get organized, everybody get transported. We had the best crew that we could possibly provide for each and every game in that tournament, making sure that everybody was up to par, got evaluated, had their improvement comments from all the coaches, the officials coaches. That is huge, and I that nothing makes me happier than being able to be part of that program. If I can't be on the field, I'd rather support those people off the field.
Right. Now, we had Bob DeMarco on the show not long ago also, and we spent a fair amount of time talking about the upcoming Olympics in sixes, and you alluded to that at the beginning of the show about one of the programs you've got going is sixes. How is the sixes program coming, and will you guys be ready for a push to get into the Olympics?
To be honest, I don't know. Not because I doubt it, but I really don't know. I've been so focused on box, and I'm deputy official in chief for the European Championship in Poland this summer, and I've also applied for the under 20 Worlds in Korea. Still waiting for the job application to either get accepted or not, but we'll see how that goes. I have not paid much attention to sixes, unfortunately. So,
right.
I think they're doing selections and they're having tournaments and there's lots of activity there, but it's just something that I just haven't had the mind space for to also look at.
Sure.
With box and officiating, and also I changed jobs right before Utica, so I'm still in startup mode for that job as well. So sixes is developing, but I can't say how good we're doing, unfortunately. Sorry.
Right. You have any thoughts on sixes as opposed to box?
Well, some people say that we might as well just use box rules and just keep it simple. Why invent yet another version of the same game? We have men's and women's, which are almost different games. I mean, they're growing closer together now, but that's two rule sets, and then there's box, and then there's sixes. So we have 3 or 4 different variations of the same basic throwing a ball with a stick. And then there's, of course, PLL and the various collegial and high school different rules, which sometimes make it an even different game. I mean, the concept is the same, but the execution can be very different. Shot clock, no shot clock, those kinds of things. I got to look at the sixes rules as they were being developed by World Lacrosse, the Blue Skies working group. They really did a very good job at throwing all the assumption out the window and starting from scratch. I think they've come up with a formula that is easier to understand for a lot of people. We keep having to explain in field, like the ball goes out of bounds and you're closest and it's a shot, and no, it's not a turnover, but I don't know how many times I've told people this on the sideline because they don't understand why people retain the ball and they miss a shot. They threw it out of bounds. Like, why did they get it back? So they got rid of one of those things. But that's also a conversation starter. Like, if people are like, "Whoa, why did they get?" They don't understand the sport. You can start talking to them and maybe get them involved somehow. That's what I do on my Sunday afternoons. Talk to random people. It sounds kind of creepy, but I mean well. So it's a gamble. We have to see how well we do in the Olympics. I understand what they were trying to do with it. Some things I'm disappointed that they took a certain decision to take it in a certain direction. I mean, the shot clock I think is a good idea, high tempo, but it's almost too high tempo. It's almost impossible to follow on TV.
Right.
And that's not great. And I know ESPN is now a partner of World Lacrosse, and I hope they have some suggestions of how we can make sure that it's watchable on TV. But if you up the tempo in box, sometimes you don't see the ball anymore anyway. I have trouble catching where it goes on if the resolution is at all bad. And 6s is probably the same speed and sometimes even faster. So I hope it's all going to be visible, and I hope it's going to have the proper attraction to get the butts in seats for after the Olympics. We want to be in Brisbane too.
Right, because Bob explained a couple of things which I didn't understand beforehand, and that is that the Olympics can only have 10,000 athletes altogether.
Correct.
So to have long benches in lacrosse, if you want to be there, you can't. So that was one of the things, and the other thing, of course, was in some of the developing nations of the 93 countries that are part of World Lacrosse, they don't have box places to play, so they have to keep it to a field. But if they keep it to a smaller field, so those kinds of things made sense to me.
Yep. No, that's very true. And I know they're struggling to get. It's not clear yet. World Lacrosse has said whether we get 8, 10, or 12 countries that we can bring. And I don't know the right number at this point in time, but we can't bring 30 players or 23 players and the coaches and everything, because all that has to fit in a certain type of Olympic village, and there's just not enough room for all those people that we're bringing. So we have to squeeze down the squad sizes. So a lot of those decisions were tough decisions that they made, and they had to make them. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able in this we would not even be able to be in this position as we
So the inference being that if you bring less players per team, you bring more teams. If I were to melt it down into a smaller, and the 10,000 refers to every athlete.
Yep.
And so did you have an idea of the number of athletes you could contribute to the village?
Just as a total, I think the latest update I got, but don't pin me down on this. I don't quite remember that. They said it was going to be either 8 or 10 or maybe 12 teams. But so, if you have the 10 players, so that's about a 80 to 120. Yep. So that's enough. And then I'm not even talking about coaches and supporting officials. But for athletes, that's only 100 120 people. So that's not a lot.
No, but if you had the regular amount of players on the sidelines, that wouldn't be 8, 10, or 12 teams.
No, that's
double the amount of people. You go with 4 or 5 teams. That's it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, Gary, from the other end, where they're limited to how many people they can have. So now you got to make a determination. Do we have more players on the team, or do we have more teams? And obviously the common sense decision should and was, and I agree with it 100%, should be more teams, please. Because the whole point of this, the whole opportunity of this, is we'll have the eyes of over 100 countries watching this game. And some people might switch to it a little bit. And for the people who are at the Olympics, they walk around and pick where they're going to go when they buy tickets. We do it at the Grey Cup all the time, which is our American football championship, where we travel around to different events. We make a decision once we're there what we're going to see, and that's a good opportunity because people are going to say, whoa, what's lacrosse, what's that? And then they might check it out. That's the whole point of why I think it's fantastic that lacrosse made the Olympics.
So lots of people were not happy with the decisions that were made, but I think they were all necessary, and in the bigger context you can understand them.
That's the key.
If they hadn't made those decisions, we wouldn't be here. So let's give it a try. Let's make it the best show we can make it with the best countries that we can bring.
Right.
And then the Olympic voters, or not voters, but the Olympic viewers are going to be able. They're going to be voting with their butts. If they're sitting with lacrosse, then they're not sitting somewhere else, and then we hope we.
Yeah. Well, it's the opportunity for the game to develop and or create the understanding of the kind of appetite sports fans have for the game, given a chance, because I think the three of us realize, and the lacrosse world realizes, that in some cases we're like a sport, not invisible, but definitely not out front. So, this is a backdoor entrance into the world of sport, which it's better than no entrance at all. And I want to thank you, Jasper, for your part to make this happen and to help make decisions. You can go in to make these decisions and go in wanting. As long as you leave with what you need, then you've done well.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you know it's in the Olympics that were in Amsterdam in the Netherlands in 1928, so 100 years back exactly. By the time lacrosse was also part of that.
No way.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't find that out until we actually had the European Championships in 2012 in Amsterdam, where we managed to get the former, well, it's still the Olympic Stadium, but the former site of the 1928 Olympics, and there we saw these murals with all the sports, and there's actually a lacrosse player on that mural, and we were like,
Wow.
And then we started looking and digging in some archives, and it's like, yeah, it was a demonstration sport, and there was like a couple of American teams, a couple of Canadian teams, an English team. There weren't any countries. I think there were some club teams from Long Island, not Ireland. That's going to be exactly 100 years ago. So that's a funny coincidence. I thought I'd bring up.
That's an interesting fact.
Yep.
So what's up next? It's the Rebesky tournament and she boxing.
Yep. That's May. We have we have a team for the women that I'm involved in. They have practice this Saturday. I'm going to give them an update on where we are, and it's an interesting development that we have probably 80% of the world championship players that have all said, like, we want to keep doing this. So that's great. We didn't have, and the people that can't make it all have either job or injury issues. Like I said, we still have some room for extra players. So if you're interested, let me know. But it's looking like we're going for another great women's team outing with lots of energy, and attendance has doubled for the practices for the women, and that was amazing. We have so many people come back to box lacrosse just because of the enthusiasm that the girls showed in Utica, and some people I haven't seen on the field in 5 or 6 years. There's so many back, and they're playing box and they're having the time of their lives. So that was just great to see. So I have no doubt that we will have a full team go there, and we will be able to use that as part of the run up to Prague 26.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, just seeing the energy over at the Worlds, that's on the upswing there, and there's just so much energy. It's wonderful to watch.
Yep, it is. It's great because every time I come back from those practices and just being able to watch and give my 10-minute update, like, this is where we are financial wise, and I need you to do this and this, and I need this information. I go there for 4 hours just to talk for 10 minutes, and I watch the other 4 hours just because I like seeing what they're doing.
Right. No, I think it's wonderful, and like I stressed to you when we were there, that they stole the show. The women just stole the show, and if Hollywood were to make that into a movie, the gold medal game, it was great because Canada didn't win, somebody else won, and the Americans upstart there, and came from behind and beat the Canadians, and all these side stories that went on, and it was wonderful talking to all the women. And all the trials and all the tribulations from everywhere, including the big nations, where you would figure they didn't have these kind of problems.
Oh, everybody had issues.
Everybody has these things. So in a sense, it kind of puts everybody in the same boat and the same battle together. The camaraderie to try and get above all of it.
They would beat each other's brains out on the field, and as soon as the game was over, they'd be hugging and shaking hands and taking selfies and team pictures and hugging, and I know that's fairly common. Well, maybe not the hugging, but it's fairly common to as soon as the game is over, we're best friends again. For the women, it was even more special there. So,
and as I believe it was Hedwig who was quoted with that one, making herstory. Not history,
herstory. Yes, I can see that quote coming from her. Definitely. Yep.
Right. Well, I really want to thank you for staying up late with us and taking the time to explain the program and all the things that have gone into it over the 20 some odd years that you've been a part of it, and as this thing has grown. And look for really great things coming up in the future, because I think that the brighter side is still ahead of you.
I would like to think so. Yeah, that's great. I enjoyed my time. Thanks for feeding me the right questions and keeping me talking. And it was quite enjoyable being here and asking all these questions. And I also have to redecorate my room a little bit with all the jerseys. Usually they're not there, but I thought I'd bring out the good stuff for you guys.
Absolutely.
But I enjoyed it very much. So thanks for this opportunity.
You're welcome. The visual opportunity was appreciated. Trust me. So thanks for doing this.
Oh,
Gary, thanks as usual. So Jasper, Gary, on behalf of Jasper Horst and, of course, Gary Groob, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching NLL Lacrosse Talk, seen live Thursdays at 4 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Lacrosse Talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget Candid Frank Stanisci on YouTube. And check out all the other shows that I have a direct hand in. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next Thursday.
Anything else you guys want to chat about?
Unless we're still, are we still live?
We're still live on here.
Yeah. Did our engineer fall asleep?
Yeah, he probably got called to some.
Actually, you know what happened? We probably had two engineers, and each one of them are looking at each other right now going, I thought you were going to shut it down. I thought you were going to shut it down. Oh, weren't you going to shut it down? No, I'm going to shut it down. Well, we don't know when we're going to go out. So I'll apologize for how quickly, if it's in the middle of a sentence that you're saying, Jasper, I want you to know when they realize we're supposed to be off the air, they're just going to cut us off. There won't be much warning. But is there anything that you didn't get a chance to say or comment on that you're thinking right now you wish you had said, or are grateful to now that you have the opportunity to say it?
Well, Gary sent me a huge list of topics that we could potentially talk about, so I'm just going to see. I don't have anything else. You know, I've told all my jokes, and I've told the standard jokes that probably going.
You know, the one thing I did want to was getting everybody over to Utica. How difficult was that to get everybody over there, and all the funding and everything else that you had to, let alone passports and everything else?
Oh, Dwayne says 2. I don't know what that means.
2 minutes. You got 2 minutes to finish that thought.
All right. Well, it was a bit of a nightmare because we wanted to get a group booking by the airline, and everybody would fly over together, and then the North Americans would just drive in or come in by plane if they were coming from West Coast areas. But everybody's like, yeah, I want to go on vacation. I'm going to go 2 weeks early, or to leave 2 weeks later, and I can stay, or can you give me a flight back? Like, I'm not a travel agent. You know what? 7 p.m. that date, and want you in Utica. I don't care how you get there. Work it out. So it turns out that a lot of people were flying together. So we did arrange for a bus from JFK up to Utica, which had like 30 odd people in it for both teams combined. But everybody else just came in randomly. So I basically said, I'm not going to deal with it. You guys figure it out. Work out your budget. You want to go cheap airline or expensive airline? I don't care. But it was just too much of a hassle. So that's how I basically solved that, by not solving it and letting everybody else figuring it out for themselves. And it was a huge cost saving as well for me, because suddenly my budget went down to $50,000. I didn't have to deal with that either.
Right.
Fortunately, we managed to do everything under budget, so that was great. I was able to pay everybody back about a third of what they paid into the program. So that was my Christmas gift to everybody. We had a good merch sales, and we had some lucky breaks with costs that were significantly lower than we expected. So all in all, I was happy to be able to pay that much back to everybody. And so a lot of people said, hey, can I just keep it with you for Prague and for Shebox? And I'm like, no, I want everything off my accounts by the end of the year, and we'll start over from new tournaments.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Well, we are inside a minute, so I want to thank you so much for taking the time with us, and I look forward to seeing you again and seeing you probably in Prague. It's going to be great.
Yep, I'll be there with bells on.
We'll try this again. So for Gary Groob and Jasper Vander Horst, I'm Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching NLL Talk. See you Thursdays at 4 p.m. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.